Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on how TorontoJobs.ca can find you a job. We're really excited that you could be here today on this beautiful Friday afternoon. I thought it was supposed to rain, but it's nice and sunny where I am. How about you, Mark? Is it sunny in Mississauga?
It is pretty sunny and warm, and we're up for a good weekend. We're
I
hoping, right?
know. I know. It looks amazing. So we're so happy that you could join us today for some tips on how we can help you find a job. We're going to go through a lot of features and job search strategies and just functions of our site that can really help you take your job search to the next level. We're going to go through a little bit about the economy and what's been happening due to COVID and all the different pivoting and twists and turns we've been experiencing over the last year and a couple months. A lot of things have been somewhat up and down, so we're really excited to have a really positive session today to really help you take your job search to the next level. So I'm Rachel Mitchell. I'm the Director of Business Development for TorontoJobs.ca, and I'm joined by Marc, who is the President of TorontoJobs.ca. And again, we've been with Toronto Jobs. Well, I've been with Toronto Jobs for 15 years, so we've seen a lot of things throughout the years, and hopefully we can extend our expertise to you this afternoon. So, Marc, I don't know if you want to say hello or say a few words.
Yeah, welcome everybody, and thanks Rachel for organizing and moderating and emceeing this event. As always, do such a great job with this stuff. So want to welcome everybody watching live here, and as well as on Facebook, and later on through our YouTube channel as well. We have a lot of great content over the next hour, and let's get right into it. I've been in the recruiting business for 26 years. Maybe I should introduce myself a little bit more for those of you that don't know me. I've been in the recruiting business for 26 years, and I thought I'd kind of been through every kind of different type of market over the years before the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden that obviously is something brand new that nobody had ever experienced before. So quite interesting. I'll talk about it later, but I also wrote the book Tales from the Recruiter, and you can check that out at talesfromtherecruiter.ca, and we'll be chatting about that as well. So yeah, I think we should just get right into how we can help you find a job, and some tips and the market, and so on and so forth.
Sure. I just wanted to mention before we do get started, we really want this to be an interactive session. So if anyone has any questions at all throughout the duration of the presentation, please place them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And I'll go through them as we go on, or as it makes sense to answer a few questions. We will try not to wait till the end to do it, but we do have a lot of information to cover. So if you have any questions, feel free. Again, we want it to be an interactive session, just at the bottom in the Q&A box. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, so the video will be available after the webinar if anyone is looking for it or wants to rewatch it, but there won't be any slides. We're just doing a very informal presentation chat about the job market, about job search advice, tips, and all the resources that we have to help you find a job. So we're really looking forward to it. So as Marc said, let's dive in. So I kind of want to start with the fact that we do recruitment. A lot of people don't know, because we are a job board. We're TorontoJobs.ca. It's in the name. They don't know that we offer full-time and recruitment services. We do specialize in accounting roles and finance roles, but we get roles from across the board, from customer service to admin to IT. We've had a lot of different types of roles over the years, as Marc can probably attest to. So we've been in the recruitment business for about 15 years. So we've been helping clients throughout the greater Toronto area, some really amazing clients we've had over the years. So we do offer that service. So I'm going to put in the chat, just if you're interested in sending your resume, I'm going to send the email address here for where you can send your resume, and I'm also going to include just some links for so you can access the jobs that we're currently recruiting for on the recruiting side. But Marc heads up our recruitment team, so maybe Marc, you can share some of the jobs that we're currently looking to fill.
Yeah, and I think I can share my screen here. Well, let's give this a shot and see how things play out here. I'm hoping that you'll be able to see my screen by doing this. And how's that? Can you see my screen here?
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. So, so for the recruiting division, really easy. Just go to TorontoJobs.ca in your browser, go to recruitment division, recruitment openings, and you can see all the jobs that we are currently working with through our recruiting division. And you can apply directly online. You can always email your resume to resumes@TorontoJobs.ca. And you can check all the details about any particular job that might be available, and with the job descriptions and so on. So this is a subset of all the jobs that are available on TorontoJobs.ca, but these are being handled by our recruitment team. So this is way you can apply online. Sometimes there's an email address for the recruiter who's working on the role, but really easy. Just go recruitment division, recruitment openings, and boom, there you go.
Yeah, and all of our applications are reviewed by our recruiting team. So if there might not be a position that's listed there, you know, that meets your requirements, maybe you can send your resume through. We do go through all the resumes that we do get. So, you know, any opportunity that you can submit your resume or apply for jobs is always a great idea. And I put the links also just in the chat there for our email address to send your resume, as well as the link to our current openings. Awesome. So that is our recruitment services. We also do have our job board, which I'm sure most of you know. And maybe, Mark, you can share, we can go through some of the features and functions of the website, just for those of our attendees here that haven't ever experienced our site before. So we are local, obviously, given the name TorontoJobs.ca. We do specialize in postings that are across the Greater Toronto Area. So when you land on our search page, you can see that there's just a general search job. So if you really want to just do a quick search to see, you know, what's happening in accounting, finance, you can type in kind of any keywords there that will bring up postings on the site. So you can see we've got senior accountant, finance manager. Mark showed you kind of what a job posting looks like. So you can select view job details. It'll give you all the information. Typically, it'll give you the postal code. It'll give you a salary if they've chose to include the salary, job requirements, and then you can apply right online. Some postings will have the email address listed. Some of them will require that you apply through having an account on our site. So creating an account on our site is pretty straightforward. You know, you have the ability to use your Facebook to do a quick login. It'll pull the information from Facebook and just help you to create an account by pre-filling the information. But you're going to register as a job seeker. It's going to ask you a series of questions, you know, to obviously upload your resume. The resume is very important for keywords, as our employers that are searching our resume database, or they're looking for certain candidates. They're going to be searching, if they're looking for accounts payable, they're going to be searching on accounts payable. So make sure you have those keywords in your resume when you're uploading them. Postal code is really important. Employers have the ability on the back end to search through postal code or search for candidates through postal code. You know, I don't think it's as important as it used to be. So a lot of us are working virtually. So, you know, I think we're seeing less and less employers really caring about where people, you know, are located. It used to be a huge thing with employers, the geographic location of the candidate, just with commuting and that sort of thing. But now it's become very quickly one of the maybe least important things for an employer. So as you can see, Mark's on the field here, you can fill out your information. Obviously, the more information you have on your profile, the better. At the very bottom, it'll ask you if you want to subscribe to our mailing list. Always a great idea. I mean, we're not the kind of organization that's going to, you know, spam you with emails every day. We send out very informative pieces of information, whether it be a newsletter, maybe an article that we've written on a certain topic, whether it be interviews. We do a lot of events, so we'll have a lot of video content that we post from our speakers from those events that are giving advice on interview tips, your resume, that sort of thing. So it's an awesome email to get. You know, we send out jobs that are available. So just very informative. And again, we don't send them every day. It's just more of a once or twice a week, maybe, you know, 3 to 4 or 5 times a month that we send out these emails, and very valuable information included in those emails. So once you're done creating your profile, there's a lot of different things and features with the site. We have a salary wizard. So if you're unsure about, you know, what type of salary range you should put on your profile, or what, you know, what an accounts payable person is making on average in the Greater Toronto Area right now, that's available to you. We have all of our jobs will, if you select a job mail feature, that means you can subscribe to anytime a job is listed on the site. It'll send you an email notifying you of that. It's just an awesome way to prevent you from having to go and search jobs every day sort of thing. It comes right to your email, gives you information on jobs that are available. And Mark's on he's a little ahead of me here on our blog. So our blog is just filled with awesome content. So events that are coming up, we've got this networking, you can see networking networking and engagement tips when attending events. We've got our immigrants conference. We've got a student career conference happening. So our blog is pretty much, we do 2 to 3 posts a day, whether it be article content, an event we're hosting. So it's a really cool feature of the site, or just of information in general. You know, if you're looking to attend an event, if you're looking for, you know, interview tips, that sort of thing, it's a great resource for that. So that's our blog. We do an Ask the Recruiter segment, which is very cool if you have any questions. For our recruiters, we've got Sandy here who's on our team. She answers a lot of awesome, you know, questions that people ask about employment and job search in their journey. So, so just to kind of recap, you can create a profile, you can search jobs. We pretty much capture every job category in some way, shape, or form on the site. You can sign up for our job mail feature. We have a salary calculator. We've got our blog here with amazing content. You can sign up for our newsletter. And I'm going to put all the links for this in the chat once we're finished kind of going through the site. But that's our website kind of in a nutshell. Again, it's local. It's been around for over 15 years. So we spent a lot of time you know, going through and making sure we have the proper information, resources, and articles so that it can really help you in your job search. So I don't know if I missed anything, Mark.
So yeah, I think just, you know, you got everything. I mean, there's so much stuff here. There's also, you know, if you were an employer, if you're watching in your employer, you want to know articles on topics that are relevant to hiring. We also have the employer articles. There's a news segment, or if just, you know, kind of all, we posted this today about the job numbers, and I'm going to talk about those shortly as well. But the Canadian and the US job numbers just came out today. So we're going to mention that, but you can get information from here as well, or you can just look at all articles as well. So, so yeah, so there's that. I mean, just going through them one at a time here. Search jobs. You can search jobs by category. Post your resume. Job alerts, as Rachel mentioned, you can get emails sent directly to your inbox when there's something appropriate. Recruitment openings is the same as here. Recruitment openings, and then register. And then the recruiting division, recruitment openings, recruitment for employers, resume mining for employers. So these are if you're an employer. And the career resources, Rachel mentioned about the salary calculator. This is our blog. These are some of the events and agency listing as well. And then the career, move that over, career fairs, registration and exhibitor. And then this is a section for employers. So yeah, that's a quick nutshell overview of the website, and would love to have you part of the community.
Yep, so I've included a link of how to post your resume. And I just want to touch on, we're definitely going to talk about some job search tips. Marc's going to talk about the employment updates and the job numbers that came out today. I just want to give you a few more resources before we do that. We're very active on social media. So for anyone that has you know, a Google account or Gmail account, and they have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We are very active on LinkedIn. I think we have close to 100,000 followers and members. So if you're looking for a job, we post jobs there all the time. We have other organizations that post jobs to the site. Obviously, we're sharing all of our event information and things that you can find on our blog. But we also see job seekers get creative, and you know, it's a really good idea to post there. That we have recruiters there, we have hiring managers to say, hey, I'm, you know, Rachel, I'm looking for a job in such and such a, you know, write a summary about yourself, and feel free to add it to our pages. It's an awesome place for a lot of people to see your post that you're looking for a job, and it's a very kind of out of the box thing that you can do in your job search to, you know, not only apply for jobs, but kind of put yourself out there in a group that is mainly focused on jobs is a really good idea. So we approve posts like that all the time of people that just kind of say, hey, I'm Rachel, I'm an accounts receivable person. I'm, you know, looking for a job in North York. Here's a link to my LinkedIn profile kind of thing. So feel free to use our social media and our pages to your advantage that way. And I'm going to include some links in here so that you can follow us on our various pages, and you can stay updated. I mean, we have video content every day. We have Rob Daniels from Z103.5. He's our content creator. He does videos every day. We talk about cover letters. We talk about LinkedIn. We talk about just a lot of different job search tips, interview tips, a lot of virtual interview tips that have been happening lately, just with the way things have shifted with the pandemic, teaching you how to, you know, properly do video. There's an art to it, and it's not comfortable for everyone. So we walk through that as well. So all of that is on our social media. I see that I forgot to put YouTube in here. Also, so I'll put the link for YouTube, but an awesome way to stay connected with us. And again, really broadcast, you know, that you're looking for a job and use it to your advantage. Marc, you go on there quite a bit too with your profile, your LinkedIn.
Absolutely, yeah. Always doing content and creation, and helping people find jobs, and you know, we're I think we should also mention, Rachel, that you know, we're not part of the government of like the City of Toronto government or Ontario or anything like that. We're a separate company from anything to do with the city and government. So some people wonder like who we are and what we're all about, but you know, we're just our own company doing our own thing, and we help people find jobs. That's really what our goal is.
Perfect. So I don't know if we want to get into, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about some other features towards the end, but maybe we want to start talking about our top tips for finding a job, or maybe you want to talk about the employment updates and numbers, Marc?
Yeah. So why don't we start with some resume tips? How's that? There's a few things that we can cover off here. We'll talk about resume tips, and we'll talk about the labor market and the job numbers that were announced today as well. But you know, just a few tips that I always want to talk about the resume, because it's such a key component when you're looking for a job. So a few quick points that that I think you should know. So number one is keep it down to 2 pages, 1-inch margins, top, bottom, and sides. Those are a pretty standard thing. Some resumes I see are, you know, 3, 4, or 5 pages long. They try to put as much stuff in, or if they know they're supposed to get it down to 2 pages, people use a very small font. It makes it more difficult to read. So make sure to use 2 page or maximum 2 pages with 1-inch margins. Try 12-point font. That's usually good. Arial, usually a more common font type. Don't keep changing your resume. You know, go with something that you're comfortable with, and you know, use that as your sales pamphlet or your brochure. I always say, you know, if you ask 10 recruiters or 10 people in HR or 10 friends what you should change on your resume, you're going to get 10 different responses. So go with a style that you're comfortable with. And if you're not getting interviews, most of the time it's not because of your resume. It could be because of your experience, could be what the companies are looking for, and so on. So really just focus on that. And I want to share this example because it hits home a lot of times. And that is that if you think of a store owner, and a store owner has trouble getting people coming into the store. So maybe, you know, something that may not work is by reshuffling the products in the store. So for example, bringing products from the back to the front, putting products from the top shelf to the bottom shelf, and so on. That doesn't fix the problem of people not contacting you or coming into the store for the store owner. So similarly on a resume, by shuffling things around, that doesn't necessarily fix the problem of you not getting interviews. If you're getting interviews and people are contacting you and so on, great, your resume is working, you've got skills that are possibly in demand. But if you're struggling to get interviews and you're struggling to get people to come into your store, so to speak, don't spend too much time reshuffling your resume. Perhaps the time should be spent on trying to network more and be connecting with people on a more informational interview type basis, tapping into that hidden job market, those jobs that are never advertised. On your resume, you don't need to put any personal information like age, sex, religion, number of kids. You can talk about your hobbies. It tells a little bit about yourself, but you should also make sure that your resume matches your LinkedIn profile. So the LinkedIn profile dates of employment and titles and companies that you worked at should match exactly to your LinkedIn profile. So make sure your LinkedIn profile matches into your resume and vice versa. You can put your city in there. In most recently or over the last few years, there's been a trend to sometimes just put the person's name, maybe an email address, maybe a phone number, but information about where the person lives is becoming less and less common. And it's unfortunate to your detriment, because when recruiters want to know who they're trying to place for their clients or who they're trying to hire for their organizations, they kind of like to know, where are you located? Are you in Toronto? Are you in Vancouver? Are you in Halifax? So at least put the city down. I can understand the trend of not including an actual address, but put in at least the city where you are. And keywords, what a recruiter will search on. Think of alternative words, like if you work for Coca-Cola, a recruiter might search Coke, MBA versus M.B.A. So think of different ways that somebody might spell or search for your resume, and make sure that those keywords are in your resume as well. And what else? I could go on for this for quite a while, but we'll break it into small pieces. But use the titles on your resume that references will confirm. So if you were an accounting manager, don't put director of accounting, or don't put manager of accounting, or whatever it is. Make it exactly the way the reference is going to come back, because you don't want somebody who's saying, well, I called your reference, they said you were a senior accountant, and you put down here accounting manager. So just be really honest about that. So other than that, spelling, grammar, use bullet points, make it easy for the recruiters to read, and good luck on that side of things. So those are my tips on resumes, Rachel.
Awesome. I'm just going to add a couple. I've been doing a lot of panels and talking to a lot of recruiters recently, and they're kind of main. I've heard a lot of the same kind of common point that they have is really taking the job description and maybe if it's on your application or your initial application, but your resume should really be quantitative information. You should really talk about how you can help that organization. If they say they're looking for someone that is creative, how are you creative? It's one thing just to say, I am a creative, thinker kind of thing, but displaying how you've been creative on your resume, or, if you're in sales, what was the percentage that you went over your goal every month, that kind of thing. Employers are really looking for how you took action in organizations, how you're going to take action in their organization, and really what you can bring to the table. To say just that you have strong customer service skills, I don't think really cuts it anymore. You really have to get descriptive on, if you worked in a call center, they probably have analytics of how many calls you took, or what your percentage was in call times, or those types of things. To really use that analytical information and put it on your resume, because people are looking for examples of really what you can bring to the table. And anyone can say, that they have these skills, but really showcase how you made a difference or an impact in your previous organization, or how you think you can make an impact in that organization. So I think that's really important, is having that quantitative information on your resume. That would be my kind of main thing. And your objective should be really strong. Recruiters don't generally read past, I think it's 8 to 10 seconds. I've heard anywhere from 8 to 13 seconds. It's generally in that range. So if you don't have a really strong objective, and it really should be geared towards it. I know Marc mentioned don't go changing your resume all the time, which I totally agree with, but your objective really should be something catered towards the job description or that company or what you're applying for, just to show them that you've done the research, you're very interested in the role, and you've taken the time to write that strong objective statement that's going to want to make them keep reading. Your core competencies probably should be the next part of your resume, and that should be where you're saying what skill you have and something to back that up. Because that's your key. That 8 to 13 seconds is your key. And they're going to scan your resume, obviously, to look at your experience too. So if you're applying for a job and you've got 5 years of experience, make sure you've got that, right at the top of your resume. The hobbies should be at the very bottom. You've got to really wow them with what's on that first little section of your resume. And make it simple. It shouldn't be anything colorful. There shouldn't be pictures on it. There shouldn't be anything of that nature. Obviously, if you're in graphic design or a marketing role, it might look a little more creative, but simple format is still really what works for most recruiters. So that would kind of be my additions to your points there, Marc.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great points. And take it from us. I mean, we see it, resumes all the time. We're hearing it. As Rachel mentioned, she's on panels with recruiters. And this webinar is designed to help you and convey what we're hearing from other recruiters as well, from our clients, what they're looking for, what they want to know. So good point.
Yeah, and it's the most important tool. I mean, getting an interview right now is really hard. The job numbers, Marc's going to go through them, but they're obviously with the pandemic, they're very, it's a lot of competition right now for looking for employment. Things are really shifting in the economy. So that piece of information on your resume that sums up your experience, and that's the most important thing if you're looking for a job. So you should spend a lot of time on it. You should be meticulous. I mean, we still see spelling mistakes, grammar issues. Like, send it to 3 or 4 people, and not just, don't just rely on yourself for proofreading it. Send it to someone else. If something doesn't make sense, I would send it to 3 or 4 different people to review. Because believe it or not, no matter how many times, and you think it's common sense to say, check your spelling and grammar, but you still see it, and it does not showcase well for you. It doesn't, show a lot of attention to detail. So really make sure you're doing that. And maybe, Marc, we can touch on I know we have a lot of information to cover, but virtual interviews, maybe, just because they've become kind of the new norm. Before the pandemic, we saw a lot of video recruiting companies coming out with, create a video for yourself, a video resume, and it wasn't really sticking as much. And all of a sudden, March came around of last year, and now it's the new norm. So we've seen a lot of mistakes being made on virtual interviews. Within our organization, we do recruiting, and I've heard it on these panels that I run within our events. So I just want to, maybe we can touch base on a few, tips. One tip that I've heard that resonated with me, because I do a lot of video stuff, is making sure you're looking at your camera instead of looking down at yourself on the screen, or looking down. Because believe it or not, you can still kind of maintain a level of eye contact with the person you're interviewing with. So a speaker at one of our events told me to put a pink sticky note by my camera. So that really stuck with me, and it really helps me, because I find myself wanting to look at myself talking as opposed to looking in the camera. So that was one thing that really helped me. I've heard a lot of recruiters say that when it comes time to go on the interview, the candidate hasn't downloaded the proper app that they need. They haven't, practiced using the software, so they don't know where to go or how to access. They don't know the password. So as soon as you receive your interview invitation, make sure you accept it, so that the client knows that you've been accepted and you're going to be there at that time. And as soon as you accept the invite, test the software. Make sure, whether it's Microsoft Teams, whether it's Zoom, whether it's their own internal system that they're using, make sure you've tested the link, make sure you've tested the password. If you're worried about them seeing you log in, I'm sure that they'll think it's great that you're doing that, just to be prepared for the interview. That what happens a lot is recruiters schedule a certain block of time, whether it be 15 minutes, 20 minutes for your interview. And if it takes you 5 to 10 minutes to get, you're supposed to be on at 2:30 and you don't get on until 2:40 because you haven't downloaded the proper platform, that's cutting into your interview time. And we all know how difficult it is to get an interview itself. So that's really important. Make sure you're in a well-lit area. Make sure you don't have any distractions. I mean, we all are at home, so recruiters understand if you've got children and things like that. But really, if you're doing an interview, kind of put yourself somewhere where you're not going to have distractions or yelling or animals barking or anything like that, and really focus on the interview. Having a nice background or a blank wall, very important as well. And it's still important once you're done your interview, even though it is virtual, thanks for your time. An email goes a long way, sending a thank you email to whoever's interviewing you, just to show them their interest level in the position, and just to thank them for their time. I don't know, Marc, if you have anything you want to add to the virtual interview tips. I know I kind of threw it in there, but I think it's really important right now for candidates.
Yeah, all great points for sure. I'd also look at the position of your camera as well, meaning like not to have it low and you're looking down at it, or high and you're looking out. Try to make it at even level as well. And to your point about distractions, Rachel, kids, family, doorbell, or whatever. Make sure you know where that mute button is, and be prepared to push it if dog starts barking at the door, or if baby starts crying, or whatever their situation is. Make sure you know where to push that and push it, because you don't want a baby crying or dog barking or whatever the case may be. And I have a dog, so I can empathize with all the dog owners as well. And then maybe one other tip is, really prepare as if you would, if it was a live interview, that you were a live interview in person. Just because it's video and so on, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be ready. You should have questions ready. You should know who you're going to be meeting with, about the company, what they do, what the job is, have the job description handy with you, have the resume at your side so you know what they're looking at as well. So really just really think of it as a live interview. Be prepared just like you would a live interview just before the pandemic.
Perfect. And the dress is still very important. I've had recruiters tell me that people are coming in hoodies, or they stand up and they've got their sweatpants on and things like that, which is fine if you don't stand up, but make sure you've got your professional dress. It's still very important. An interview is your first impression, and it's very important to create that first impression, and be professionally dressed.
I would definitely, the lighting you brought up, which is so important. I've interviewed people, and because the lighting is so poor, maybe they're in, in a basement or where the windows are closed or whatever it is. And literally their faces are so dark, you can't even see them. Have some good lighting, even if it's just to buy a little light or something that you can have next to your computer. Or have windows open, or be in a position where there's natural light that comes in as well. Really important for being able to show yourself. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose if the interviewer can't see you. And I'm sure you feel the same way with the interviewer as well. If you can't see them, like, I don't know, where am I applying to? Where do they want me to work? So keep that in mind as well, for sure.
Absolutely. So those are some resume tips, some virtual interview tips. Marc he's our resident expert at statistics and all things that are happening in the jobs economy, which I find very interesting. I mean, if you can understand where the economy's at, I know I've spoken to a lot of job seekers that are very discouraged in their job search right now. And, we've got to be positive. Right now is the time to really ramp up your search. The fact that you're here learning new tips and networking with Marc and I hope that, you guys ask some questions as we go along here. We'd be happy to answer them for you. But we know it's been really tough. We speak to candidates every day. And, you're not alone. There's, millions of Canadians that have lost their jobs, lost their businesses, lost their livelihoods. So, it's becoming important to understand the economy, and it's not a reflection of you. It's just a reflection of what's happening, in the world. But if you understand the economy and maybe, do a little bit of research about, there's still companies out there that are hiring. There's sectors that are booming. The obvious ones are technology, healthcare, but there's a lot of things that supply to those industries as well that are still, logistics is very high also in terms of hiring right now. People can't get things fast enough. I think Amazon Prime is even behind, and I don't think they're doing really a lot of next day deliveries anymore, because they're just out of such a shortage of people. I just read the other day that Wayfair is opening a big office in Toronto. Google's opening a big office in Toronto. There's still companies out there that are hiring. So maybe you were in an industry before the pandemic that's been really hard hit, but that doesn't mean that your skill sets won't transfer to, other industries where they're really looking to hire new talent. So I think Marc is going to go through the stats and just things that are happening in the economy. And I think it's really important for everyone to really understand what's happening in the economy, as I'm saying, so that they can really maybe shift their focus of how they're applying or where they're applying to, and really look at the trends and things that are happening in the economy, so they can shift their search in other directions. So, Marc's spent a lot of time putting all these stats together. So I always learn something very interesting to learn about just different unemployment, rates and industries that are growing. So thanks to Marc for putting these together. So I'll let you, he's got his whole thing that he goes through. So I'll let him do that. And hopefully you guys find some value in it, because I know I definitely do.
Okay, terrific. Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, so I'll spend, 5-10 minutes just going over some job numbers. And to Rachel's point, there's certain industries that have been really, really hard hit, including travel, tourism, hospitality, retail. And if you're in one of those industries, you understand, you may have lost your job. The reality is that those jobs may not be coming back anytime soon, even with the vaccines coming out, the pandemic maybe coming to an end. It will take some time for those industries to recover. Some experts, economists say that the damage will last for 5 to 10 years in those industries. Now, in terms of jobs, there may be some opportunities within those industries, and sometimes it's good to start in an industry that's really been decimated, because you can really gain some traction in that. So so in the US, and you look to the US for some direction as well, because they're probably about 2 to 3 months ahead of where we are in terms of vaccine rollouts and reopening and so on, especially if you're in the Ontario area. They are having trouble finding people to work in restaurants, amusement parks, hospitality industry, and so on, because a lot of the people that were in those industries have now gone on to other industries. Maybe they've changed a direction, changed careers. It could be mothers that have to look after their kids, fathers that have to look after their families, whatever the case may be. So those industries are actually, they're paying some of the wages in the US an unbelievable amount to be a server, for example, because those industries have been damaged so much and the supply is so low and the demand is so great as companies are reopening. So there may be opportunities in those industries well beyond just what happens in the next 3 months, 6 months. But you really want to look at what your skill set is, what schools, courses you might need to take in order to improve your skills. Maybe your skills are not in demand in this current market because the pandemic has destroyed the industry that you're in. Well, so that means you got to shift and change kind of where you're at. So let's take a look at some of the numbers and even geographical, because knowing where jobs are across Canada, and if you're willing to move, for example, there might be some opportunities. So the job numbers came out today for the month of May for Canada and the US. And the numbers typically come out on the first Friday of the month. So today's being Friday, June 4th. This is the first Friday the Canadian and US job numbers have come out. So we had, before the pandemic, we had a great unemployment rate, lowest ever recorded in Canadian history at just over 5%. This is back in January, February of 2020. As the pandemic hit and across Canada, we lost 3 million jobs. The unemployment rate spiked up to over 13%, highest unemployment rate ever recorded in Canadian history. As the year went by, June to November, we had some good job months, good job creation. There were in fact positive job creation months all the way through. December, January, we kind of hit a wall because of lockdowns. February, March was more improved. Those jobs came back. April was not great. We lost 200,000 jobs or so. And then in May, just released, we lost about 70,000 jobs, or about 0.4% in April. And that was primarily as a result of the third wave restrictions. Now, almost all of the decline was in part-time work, and Ontario and Nova Scotia accounted for most of the overall declines in employment in May. Now, the best province for employment is Saskatchewan. Employment actually increased in Saskatchewan. But overall, the unemployment rate now stands at 8.2%. And that was really unchanged as a result of the number of people who searched for a job or who were on temporary layoff, pretty much held steady. Now, the number of Canadians who are working from home is 5.1 million people, which is an unbelievable amount.
That is unbelievable. Wow.
There's 18.6 million people who are working. So out of that, about a third are working from home. And about among the people working part-time in May, almost a quarter of those wanted a full-time job. And that was up from 18.5% in February of 2020. Now, the number of people that are on long-term unemployment, people who are unemployed for 27 weeks or more, is just under 500,000 across Canada. And in total, there's 1.65 million people across Canada who are unemployed. The worst unemployment rates are actually for those who are students or returning students or youth. So the unemployment rate among returning students, those who are looking to go back to school, is 23.1%. Now, this is better than where we were in May of 2020, which was 40%, but it was a lot greater than where we were in May of 2019, which was 13%. The unemployment rate for men 25 years and over is 6.9%. The unemployment rate for women 25 years and over is 7%, so pretty close. Unemployment rate for youth, again, very high, 15 to 24-year-olds is 15.9%. Slightly down from April, but still really high. And again, the overall unemployment rate is 8.2%. And some of the other stats that you may want to know just across Canada, the province with the lowest unemployment rate I mentioned earlier, they had job growth in May is Saskatchewan at 6.3%. So well below the national average, Saskatchewan. The province with the highest unemployment rate, and it has been this province for several months now, is Newfoundland and Labrador at 13.4%. The unemployment rate in Ontario is 9.3%, and that is above the national unemployment rate. And the city with the highest unemployment rate across Canada, looking at 33 metropolitan areas, is Belleville, Ontario, which is about 2 hours east of Toronto. That stands at 11%, 11.0. And the city across Canada with the lowest unemployment rate out of the 33 metropolitan areas that are looked at is Trois-Rivières, Three Rivers, Trois-Rivières, in Quebec, 4.2%. So pretty low, about half of what the overall unemployment rate is in Canada. And as far as the larger cities, Toronto is 9.6%, a slight increase from where we were in April, and Vancouver is 7.5% unemployment rate. Then in the US added 559,000 jobs in May, and that is fueling hope about the pandemic recovering and going through. These are about twice the previous month's gains in the US. And the biggest job gains, not surprisingly, which we will have in Canada, were in leisure and hospitality as people return pretty much in droves to bars and restaurants. So keep that in mind. Travel, tourism, these industries are all going to create some significant jobs in the next few months if we follow what happened in the US. Now, the US unemployment rate, 5.8%, so really solid rate. Now, there's nuances, little differences between the Canadian and the US rate. You can't compare apples to apples because the US unemployment rate is calculated in a slightly different way, and it includes different numbers than is included in the US employment rate. Now, a survey about what life is going to be like post-pandemic, this is from US companies. They were asked, how are you going to treat people when the pandemic ends, about working from home or allowing them to be in the office, allowing them to work from home? So 38% of workers, this is in the US, and they have different employment laws, by the way, 38% of workers in the US are expecting their employees to return to work in an office after this pandemic. 27% will be allowed to continue to work remotely, and 29% will have some kind of hybrid options. So 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, and perhaps vice versa the rest of the time. So that's a quick summary of the employment numbers. Rachel, I can keep going, or if you want to talk about a little bit more about what we can do or how we can help people find a job, or if you want, I can keep going.
Sure. I think, I like the top 10 tips to find a job, if we could go through those, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about our virtual event, and then maybe take any questions that people might have for the last 15 minutes.
Sure. Okay. So my top 10 tips for finding a job. First of all, think about what you want to do. I'm always into finding your perfect job. And my book I talked about is a Canadian recruiter's perspective on how to find that perfect job. And I'm always like, okay, well, what makes your list? What's on your list? Think of everything that's important to you. You know, in today's world, you want to add on, or do you want to work from home? Do you want to be in an office? Do you want to be a hybrid model? So make a list of what you want, what kind of people you want to work with, what location you want, what industry you're looking to do, what kind of people do you want to interact with? Do you want to be in a younger environment? Do you want to be in an older environment? Do you want to be in an industry that's growing or steady or stable or whatever? These are all the things that you want to think about what you want to do. So that's number one. And I have a very simple 3-step process that I'll just run through, and you can read my book on the website, TalesFromTheRecruiter.ca. It's free, you can download it, but it's a very simple 3-step process. Number one, figure out what you want to do. Number two, make a list. First of all, make a list of everything you want to do. That's number one. Number two, find jobs without applying or anything like that, but find jobs and industries that can give you everything you want to do. And that's on your list, everything that you love. Find ones that can give you, if you can, 100% of what you're looking for on that list. And then number three, go after it. Find out who are in those roles, maybe people that you can speak with, maybe they have some time. They can talk to you about what they're all about, what the job is, reconfirm that what you thought the job is matches what it is, what actually is what people are telling you. So very simple 3-step process. If you want to get in, you don't have that experience, volunteer, get in there and see if that makes sense to you. So if you are doing some soul searching, you lost your job, you've been looking for a while, find opportunities that will meet all the things on your list, but you have to start with your list. And most people don't even get to step number 1 of making a list. Write it down. Have an up-to-date resume. Number 2, talked about resumes already. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date and consistent with your resume, and use LinkedIn to join relevant social media groups. It's a great way to join some groups, find out what recruiters are up to, connect with people that make sense to you as well. Next up is get a coach, advisor, or recruiter to help you. Like even the best athletes, even the best business people have coaches and people that can help. Advisors. If you're looking for a job, get people in the industry, get people that know what they're talking about. If you have a recruiter that you're happy with, or somebody who's in HR that you're connected with, that you want to spend some time with, reach out to them. Next up, know what you're good at. Having a good understanding of your strengths is really important for you to know which direction your career might take you. And you know what you're good at. Not everybody's good in everything. I'm not good in a lot of things, but I know what I'm good at and what I like to do. And those are the areas that I want to do because I'll do them over and over and over again. And kind of lends into the next number tip on my list of top 10. Number 8, do something that you love. If accounting is not your thing, look at work that you love to do. And, you know, I've kind of gotten into this already about start with the list. Start with the list of what you love, and that will give you direction as to where your career should go. Number 9 is don't get discouraged. With everything going on right now, the job market has been literally turned upside down. And try not to be publicly negative, and try not to come across that you're negative on an interview, because recruiters will sense that. They'll pick up on that. Some vibes that you're saying. Don't criticize your last boss. Don't criticize the last company that you worked at. Really don't get discouraged. The market has been turned upside down, but in saying that, you may need to reset and pivot your career, because careers have changed. Industries have been torn down. So just really think about where you want to go, what kind of job you want, what you love to do, and what your strengths are. And we talked about this earlier. Finally, make sure to perfect your video interviews. Watch videos. I'll put a link in the chat here as well about perfecting your video interviews as well, a video that I did as well. So we touched on a bunch of points. If you missed some, you can certainly check out the video, and that will give you some other ideas as well. Is that good, Rachel?
Yeah, and to share one last point, I find this, you know, in my everyday life, just setting goals for yourself. You know, if you set goals and you attain them, you tend not to get as discouraged as much. So as an example, on a Monday morning, you wake up, you set goals the previous week for your Monday. You're going to reach out to 3 recruiters. You're going to apply for a certain amount of jobs. You're going to review your resume. Like, just have 5 solid goals of things you're going to accomplish in your job search that week, and check them off as you go along. And at the end of the week, you'll feel a lot more positive than discouraged, just knowing that you've kind of done things to work towards the end goal of getting a job. So I always find that, you know, not just in job search, but just in your general life. I mean, you've got things on your to-do list, things that you know, when you complete them, you feel a lot more satisfied. So I tend to be a big goal setter. So I think it's also important in your job search to do the same. It makes you feel a lot more positive and not get so discouraged with yourself. So I just want to go through maybe some of the upcoming events that we have. Most of them are free to register if you register enough in advance. So what we do, we have a platform that we're hosting many different job search events on, much more interactive than Zoom. You can go on. We have I think 3 or 4 different sections of the event. So I'll kind of go through those with you just as a brief overview. So we have a general career fair. We've got a student career fair. We have an immigrating to Canada career fair. We have a tech career fair, and we have a bilingual career fair. So all of these will take place between the months of June and August. I'll put the links in the chat once I'm done kind of chatting about them. But they all follow the same structure for the most part. We have an exhibit area, so companies that are looking to hire where they're either live in their booth or they've incorporated a video and information of how you can apply to their open jobs. So obviously the most important are the job openings. We have recruiters that use the platform. They might be interacting live through our chat, or we have a networking area on the platform as well where you can meet those recruiters. You're asked to share your audio and video, so you could be connected with another job seeker that might be able to help you in your search. You could be connected to a recruiter. So we have the exhibit area, we have the networking area, which is really interactive. We also have sessions that run throughout the duration of the 2 hours. That normally the events are 2 hours long. And in those sessions, people talk about interview tips, very similar to this webinar, gives information about you know, how you can find a job, virtual interviews using LinkedIn. We've had all sorts of different sessions. Normally we have between 3 and 6 sessions that will run on the platform. So you have the ability to kind of choose which ones you think are best suited towards information that you want to know in your job search. And then we give a lot of information about updates on the economy and things that are happening, but it's just an awesome platform to apply for jobs, learn more about your job search, and then also meet recruiters. So I'll put the links, or Mark, if you want to stick those links in the chat, just for our upcoming events. I would definitely recommend registering for them now if you're interested in attending, because right now it's complimentary registration, but as we get closer to the event, we do charge a minor fee just to attend. And again, they're 2-hour events, and we have something for everyone. We've got immigrating, bilingual students, as I mentioned, and then we do a couple general career fairs and one specific to tech as well. So those are our upcoming events. I think we have a couple questions if we have time to go through the questions. Someone's asking if we have an archive of our webinars. If you go to our YouTube channel, I put the link in the chat. Our YouTube channel is filled with content, and we just kind of organized it into sections. So if you're interested in videos on interviews, resumes, we have all different types of career coaches, recruiters that are talking about, you know, a variety of different topics pertaining to all those areas of job search. So if you're looking for archives of webinars or past sessions or past events, you can definitely go to our YouTube channel to find that information. This one will be uploaded there as well in the next couple days also, but it's also on our Facebook page because we are going live. So we have about 6 minutes left, so we can answer any questions that anyone might have. I know we have a question. Someone's asking, how soon should you follow up after a job interview?
So, you know, you mentioned it earlier about thank you letters, Rachel. I'm always thinking that you should have a prepared thank you letter, that thank you email or whatever that's available, that you would send it to a client or a company employee or whatever. Usually no more than 24 hours. I find that the candidates that kind of stand out, remind me of them, usually send me something within a few hours, especially in this world. Like, you don't have to go home if you're doing a video interview. If you're in a live in-person interview, you go home, you know, say the interview's at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, you know, by 2 or 3 o'clock, you should have sent a thank you letter or thank you email. And then beyond that, if you haven't heard anything within, well, you should also ask people, when would the next step be? When could I expect to hear back from you? That's one of the interview questions that you should ask. So when would I know? And you might say, well, you know, they might say, well, we're still doing interviews. We'll know by the end of this week. Okay, well, give them till the end of the week. And then on the Friday or on the Monday of the following week, excuse me, that's when you should follow up. Sorry.
You take your drink, Mark. It's a lot of talking.
A lot of talking. So yeah, so definitely like a week later. And then I do hear this a lot. Hey, I went for the interview. Sound was great. Thought we had some good momentum. I had a good conversation. Then I never heard anything back. So follow up. You know, try 2 or 3 times. Recruiters are very busy, and you may not know that. I mean, if you're dealing with a recruiter, they might be dealing with 8, 10 different jobs that they're working on. And each of those jobs, there might be 50 to 100 applications for each, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the role, and how many interviews are taking place, how many first interviews, second interviews. So it's not always easy for a recruiter to remember every single person. So
Absolutely.
follow up, make yourself known, send a message through LinkedIn or Facebook, Twitter, reach out to them, try to get their attention with you. I wanted to share, Rachel, just what I feel are some of the top characteristics of candidates, job seekers that I've interviewed and who I've found, placed over the years and who I find end up being really successful, whatever they do. And these are very broad comments, more generalizations, but this will give you an idea as to what recruiters and employers are looking for. So they work hard and they make themselves available. They want continuous feedback. They take constructive feedback. They thrive on that and they make themselves better that way. Number 3, this is a 10, so I'll go through them very quickly because we're running out of time. Strong listening and communication skills. So they really work on it. Number 4, they're a leader. Even if they're not managing staff, they're a leader. They can coach and mentor, help other employees. They can listen. They'll listen to constructive feedback. They have a knowledge and understanding of their industry, their systems, technology, and they have strong technical skills as well, whatever they may do. And the last 3, they're enthusiastic about what they're doing and they're what they're all about. 2, they have a strong network. And I always say your network is your net worth. Your network, keep building your network, keep making contacts, because those people that are part of your network can give you opportunities and let you hear about opportunities that you might not otherwise hear about. And finally, desire for continuous learning. They always think that they need to learn and growing and reading and you're trying to hit the top of Mount Everest, but it never gets there. The moment you get close, the mountain keeps growing. So you never get to the top of the hill. So I'll just leave it with that.
That's perfect. That's amazing. Do we have time for one more question or?
And you probably have your own tips too, Rachel. I mean, you've been in this game for a long time as well. So
I don't know, you covered most of them and we're running out of time. So I just want to maybe get to them one more question if that's okay. So someone's asking, a couple of people asked actually about cover letters because we never talked about cover letters. So do you think it's important from your perspective for someone to include a cover letter if the posting doesn't say, sorry, we had a few questions, so I'm just kind of rewording them to kind of capture everyone's question in one question. But do you think it's important to include a cover letter if the posting's not specific about it?
Well, it's interesting because there's so many rules, so many different variations of who it is. And my personal thought is that I never read cover letters. I look at the person's resume. Can I help them? Can I not help them? I see a lot of resumes, so I got to make it quick. But then we run these recruiters panels and it's kind of a split. Some people read the cover letters. Some people don't read the cover letters. Some people read the cover letters only after they bring the person in for an interview or schedule something in. So it's really a hit and miss. And it really depends. If you're sending it to somebody who doesn't get a lot of resumes, maybe they're not a recruiter or in that game, they may read your cover letter because they don't know any other ways. That maybe they have a personal feeling that they work on their cover letter. So because they know how long it takes to do a cover letter, they take the time to read it because they feel that it's, in all fairness, for the benefit of the job seeker. So it's a really divisive, right, discussion between recruiters, HR managers, employers as to whether to do it or not. I guess I would do it knowing that not everybody's going to read it, I guess, is what I would say.
No, that's a good answer. And I run a lot of panels, talk to a lot of recruiters, and it's very divided. So I think it also depends on the job. I mean, if you're applying for a communications role or a marketing role or something where you kind of need to show your writing skills, or applying for a journalist type of position, your resume doesn't really allow you to put your thoughts on paper. So it is nice, your cover letter somewhat tells the story of your resume. So it is nice to include if you're, again, depending on the type of job that you're applying for. I mean, if you're a tech person, you're going to be more going to show your skill sets and all the different certifications that you have. It's going to be more of a technically based resume, whereas they don't really care about your writing skills as much, right? So again, it probably depends on the role.
Right.
as well. Well, it's 3:01. I just wanted to say thanks. I know we covered so much information. We've got all these links for you guys in the chat here, links to our upcoming events, links to our YouTube channel where you can find all the videos and information, links to our Toronto Jobs, website, where that's the hub for everything we do. So if you're looking for a job from an external company, if you're interested in applying through our recruitment division, all of our social media links are on there as well. So Toronto Jobs, again, is the hub. You'll find all these links on our actual website, but they're all here for you as kind of broken down. I included Marc and I's LinkedIn profile if you'd like to connect with us as well. And just want to say thank you for being here. Don't get discouraged. I mean, everyone right now is in the same position. It's very difficult to find a job, but if you take some of these tips and just start implementing them into your job search in the next week, and really get creative about how you're applying or reaching out to recruiters or using groups on LinkedIn to post that you're looking for a job. You got to think a little outside of the box these days in terms of not just relying on applying to jobs. You've got to be a little bit more creative than that. So yeah, I definitely think that today was productive, and we gave a lot of information for you to hopefully implement all these things in your job search. So thanks again for being here, everyone.
Thanks very much. And Rachel, thanks very much for coordinating, and great job. And feel free to connect with us. We're here to help you, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, it's the weekend. It's going to be nice weather, so get out and enjoy.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, everyone.